Your body is made of trillions of cells, and right now those trillions of cells are working really hard to keep you alive. And as you can probably imagine, there are lots of different jobs that need to be done. It's more effective for your body to divide the different jobs up between your cells. So, as you may know, inside your body you have lots of organs and organ systems to help you carry out these processes. In this video, we'll unpick the relationship between cells, tissues, organs and organ systems, helping you to score good marks in exam questions. I'm going to introduce you to a magical sentence that you can use in exams to help you to describe these different levels of organisation. We'll also use a model involving a city to help you visualise what I'm talking about and understand it better. Here's a chapter list so you can skip ahead if there's some bits you're already confident about. If you're not sure though, I recommend watching from the start. So let's get started. If you're new here, welcome to BioSmash. I'm Jo, I'm a science teacher and a clinical scientist. Let's start at the beginning by looking at cells. All of our cells start out as stem cells. I always think of stem cells as a bit like children who are starting out their learning journey at school. Like the children, stem cells are unspecialised. They're not adapted to do any particular job, but they could develop skills and become lots of different things. As the children move up through school, they may start to study specific subjects that start to make them a little bit specialised into some areas. Some of the children may go on to university and study to become an architect or a scientist. Other students may do apprenticeships or college and learn skills such as becoming a builder or a hairdresser or a chef. And our cities are much more successful if different people take on different specialist jobs. This is true of the cells in your body. Some stem cells specialise to become red blood cells which carry oxygen. Some specialise to become white blood cells that can fight microbes that invade the body. Others specialise to become nerve cells that carry electrical messages around the body. And some specialise to become muscle cells to move your body. The process by which unspecialised stem cells become specialised is called differentiation. And I explain this process in much more detail in this video, which I'll link below. Okay, so now we've got an understanding of different types of specialised cells. Let's have a look at what tissues are. You may remember that earlier in the video, I promised to give you a magical sentence that you could learn and use in exams to describe levels of organisation. So I'll show you the basic sentence now, and we're going to come back to it throughout the video, changing different words to help us to write really good descriptions. So you may want to write this down. A group of something, and you can fill in whatever the keyword is in the green box, that work together to perform a certain function. Here's a diagram of a cell, but if you look inside your body, you don't generally find cells on their own. They tend to be arranged in groups called tissues. Here's a sentence to describe a tissue. Hopefully you're recognising this sentence and you can see that we've just changed one word. A tissue is a group of similar cells that work together to carry out a particular function. Let's look at our city model to help us understand this. When you find a builder in our city, you'll usually find that they'll be working in a team alongside other builders. Doctors also work in teams, like these surgeons. Chefs and cooks tend to work in teams too, preparing food. The same is true of our cells. Muscle cells work in a team called muscle tissue, and muscle tissue can contract to move our body parts. Epithelial cells are found working in groups too, as epithelial tissue, and epithelial tissue makes up linings. For example, it lines the inside of your blood vessels and the inside of your digestive system. Cells that secrete hormones and enzymes are also working together here. They're found in glandular tissue. So, for example, your sweat gland will contain glandular tissue that releases sweat. Let's have a go at using our magical sentence. Here's an exam type question. Describe what epithelial tissue is. Have a go at adapting our key sentence to answer the question and describe epithelial tissue. You need to start by filling in the gap, so a group of what that works together to perform a certain function, and then to make it even better, try and explain what that function is. So the answer's coming up, and pause the video now if you need more time. So here's a possible answer. Epithelial tissue is a group of epithelial cells that work together to line parts of the body, for example, the blood vessels. So you can see here, we've got the name of the type of cell, epithelial cell, and we've put what their function is. Give this video a thumbs up if you're starting to understand this topic better. Now that we know what tissues are, let's look at organs. We'll start with the definition of an organ, which will use our key sentence. So, an organ is one level up from a tissue. An organ is a group of different tissues that work together to perform a certain function. Let's look at our city model to help us understand this. The city contains lots of buildings called organisations. One of them is a school, and a school contains different teams of people that are working together to educate the children. There are teachers that plan and teach the lessons. There's a team of cleaners that keep the school clean. And there's also a team that carries out repairs and improvements to the school. And we mustn't forget that there's a team of cooks that provide the food to feed the children and the staff. Another organisation within the city is the hospital. The hospital is also made up of different teams. There are teams of doctors and there are teams of nurses. There are also some of the teams that you find in a school, such as the cleaners, and the team that carries out repairs, and the team that prepares the food. Just like our city is made up of different organisations, the body is made up of different organs. Here's the stomach. The stomach is an organ that has the job of breaking down food. The stomach releases digestive juices and acid that break the food down. Just like the organisations in the city are made up of different teams, so are our organs. Let's look at the stomach as an example. The stomach contains muscle tissue, which is a team of muscle cells that contract to churn the food in the stomach and help it mix with the digestive juices. So remember that muscular tissue churns food in the stomach. The stomach is lined with epithelial tissue, so we can write that the epithelial tissue lines the inside of the stomach. There's also glandular tissue in the stomach wall. So the stomach wall contains glandular tissue that releases digestive juices and enzymes. Other organs also contain lots of different tissues. For example, the heart contains epithelial tissue and muscular tissue, which helps it contract, as well as nervous tissue. The brain contains different types of tissues, as do the kidneys and our other organs. If you're finding this video helpful, it might be good to click subscribe. It'll help you find my other videos. Finally, let's move on and look at organ systems. As usual, we'll start with a definition. So, going back to our key sentence, an organ system is a group of different organs that work together to perform a certain function. Let's start by thinking about our city model. We've already mentioned that the city contains a school and a hospital. It also contains a university, a restaurant, a post office to deliver mail, a pharmacy to dispense medication, an ambulance station to house the ambulances that take people to the hospital, and a market selling various types of food. We can put these organisations into groups or systems. For example, the education system contains a school and university. The pharmacy, hospital, and ambulance service are all part of the health system, and the market and restaurant both provide nutrition to the people of the city. In a similar way, our organs are grouped together into systems, such as the digestive system. The digestive system contains glands, including the salivary glands that release saliva into our mouth, and the pancreas that releases enzymes. So one function of these organs is to secrete enzymes. The digestive system contains a stomach and small intestine, which both have the job of digesting food. It contains an organ called the liver, and the liver produces a chemical called bile, which helps to break down fats in our food. The small intestine has another job. It absorbs small molecules into the blood after the food has been broken down. The large intestine is a different organ and it absorbs water from the remains of the food. If you want to know more about the digestive system, I have made a video all about it, so I'll put that link below. Just to give you a few more examples of systems, we have the nervous system, which is an organ system that coordinates messages around the body, and the circulatory system, which transports chemicals around the body, including oxygen. If you're finding this video helpful, I'd love to hear from you, particularly if you have any requests for future videos. If we pull everything together from today's video, we can start to build a hierarchy. Cells are the building blocks of living things, and they specialise to carry out a specific job. Cells work in groups of similar cells, and these groups are called tissues. And the tissues are then arranged into groups too to create organs. So organs are made up of different groups of tissues. The different organs then work together to make up organ systems. And finally, all of the organ systems work together to keep the living thing alive. We call the living thing an organism. If you want some examples of organisms, an elephant is a multicellular organism that contains cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems. We've discussed you are an organism that's made up of cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems. So is a mouse. It contains many cells arranged into these different levels. And it might look quite different to you, but a tree is also an organism. Just to mention, there are some organisms that are only one cell big, such as bacteria. If you're only one cell big, your one cell has to carry out all of the different functions. So cells like bacteria don't contain tissues and organ systems. If you want to learn more about single-celled organisms and how they work, you might find this video helpful. I'll link it below. Well done for reaching the end of the video. If you haven't grasped it all, you could go back and watch the video again. Otherwise, here are some of the videos mentioned earlier. There's one on the digestive system, one about how stem cells specialise, and one about living things that are only one cell big. Hope to see you again soon.